I want to share a piece of work written by Danny Bars from the Association for Prisoners Maintaining Innocence. He's called it a jury system in crisis. Why reforms matters to prisoners. The Justice Secretary's proposal to restrict jury trials to only the most serious offences have sparked fierce debate. Ministers say it will help clear the backlog. Lawyers say it's an attack on the right to a fair trial. Beneath that argument lies a deeper truth, familiar to many readers of Inside Time. The jury system is far from perfect, and too many people are paying the price for its failures. For decades, the jury system has been treated as sacred. Politicians, judges, and commentators often claim it to be the gold standard of British justice. APMI, Association for Prisoners Maintaining Innocence, received hundreds of letters concerning prisoners who were convicted by juries. Dismissing failings means accepting that innocent people being in prison is simply how the system works. In our adversarial system, the prosecution builds a narrative of guilt and presents the defendant in the least favourable light. The defence then tries to undo that damage. Somewhere between these two performances, the search for truth can be lost. Prosecutors have an advantage. They do not face the same obligation as the defendant to tell the whole truth, and they choose how to frame the evidence. Barristers on both sides know they must maintain good relationships within the legal profession, which makes open criticism of each other less likely, even when tactics become questionable. Structural problems make things worse. The pool of people allowed to serve on juries has grown, meaning serving police officers and others with potential conflicts may now sit in judgment. Jurors are exposed to social media, even when told not to look up anything. Long before trials begin, the media often portrays the accused as guilty. These pressures seep into the jury room, whether courts acknowledge this or not. But perhaps the biggest flaw is a total lack of transparency. Jury deliberations are secret. Jurors do not explain their reasoning. A person can be sent to prison for decades without ever learning why 12 strangers reached the verdict they did. In every other area of public decision making, reasons must be given. Yet in criminal justice, the area where liberty is at stake, the system accepts silence. This secrecy makes appeals extremely difficult. Without knowing how a verdict is reached, how errors can be challenged. Cases like that of Andrew Malkinson, who spent 17 years in prison before finally being cleared, shows that jurors can and do make devastating mistakes. Some of the notes juries send to judges during the trial reveal misunderstanding that should worry anybody who values justice. Questions such as, can we base our verdict on something not in evidence? Or are we allowed to speculate? Shows that even fundamental rules are not always understood. If such confusion emerges in open court, one has to wonder what happens behind closed doors. The growing complexity of modern trials adds to the problem. Jurors with no legal or technical backgrounds are asked to interpret scientific data, financial documents, or digital evidence. When material is difficult to understand, people naturally fall back on impressions. How confident a barrister seems, whether the defendant appears untrustworthy, or their own unconscious bias. If the performance of a lawyer did influence verdicts, it would be hard to justify the huge differences in what barristers are paid. Majority verdicts have weakened protections even further. A person now can be convicted even if one or two jurors remain unconvinced. And the old idea of being judged by one's peers rarely holds true in modern society. Teachers, students, retirees may have little in common with the defendant in a highly technical case. Meanwhile, prosecutors regularly exclude jurors with any specialist knowledge, claiming they may have biased. Yet people with far less understanding and sometimes stronger prejudice are accepted without hesitation. So, what kind of reform is needed? Limiting jury trials, as the government proposes, only avoids the real issue. What is needed is modernisation, not reduction. Reasonable reforms could include allowing defendants to choose a judge led trial with professional assessors or a mixed panel of experts and lay people. Preventing prosecutors from using irrelevant attacks or innuendos designed only to sway the jury. Requiring judges to explain clearly what counts as evidence and what is speculation or assumption. And most importantly, requiring juries to give reason for their verdicts so that appeals can address genuine errors. The jury system is still seen as a symbol of democracy, both a symbol loses meaning when it's not delivering justice. Many inside time readers know firsthand about what happens when a jury gets it wrong. Justice should not depend on the charm of a barrister, the pressure of the media, or the prejudice of strangers. It should depend on the truth and evidence. Right now, the system too often falls short. Reform isn't just desirable, it's essential. That's Danny Barr, Association for Prisoners Maintaining Innocence.